Hello everyone, this is Rick and welcome to Astral Club. Today's video is going to be an interesting one. I'm going to tell you about an undersea alien craft that I encountered when I went to bed Thursday night and decided to astral project. I will share that with you in a few minutes. First, I want to welcome all the new subscribers, and I'd also like to take some time for a little bit of a review. I've noticed now that we have over 50 videos on the channel. We're getting new subscribers all the time. Not everybody has hours and hours and hours to review all the old videos. So I'm getting questions that I have covered in some past videos, but I think it might be a good idea to do some, at least a basic review right now on one particular area of topics, just so everybody can at least understand, what I'm talking about when I mention these basic states or basic altered states of being. So let's just do that review, and then we'll get back and we'll explore with you my astral projection. I haven't had time to write it down, so I'm just going to close my eyes and just review it in my head and talk so that you can kind of hear it as I remember it. Okay, the basic altered states of being, and there's a lot of confusion concerning this, and I hope in a very brief way to dispel some of this confusion, especially among the new people. Some of the basic altered states of being are your basic dream, lucid dreaming, remote viewing, astral projection, and NDEs, or near passing away experiences. Let's start with basic dreaming. This obviously is the easiest one. We've all done this. You go to sleep at night and you have a dream. You're unconscious. As far as you know, you are at school, your old junior high school, and you all of a sudden notice, oh my God, I forgot to get dressed. So you're naked and you forgot your locker combination, and you forget which class you're supposed to go to and where your class is, and then you wake up and you say, "Whew, wow, I'm glad that was a dream." So I mean, that's just maybe just my typical dream, but it's just a typical dream where you're having this experience. As far as you know, it's real. But obviously it's being made up entirely from your own poor, twisted mind. The next is a higher level up. That's lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is where your conscious mind intrudes upon your subconscious dream process, whereby you suddenly notice, wow, I'm dreaming. This is a dream. Everything I see around me is being generated by my own mind. I am the movie producer here. I'm the writer. I can do whatever I want. I can meet my favorite movie star. I can decide to fly if I want. I can do whatever. I remember once I had a lucid dream after watching the Ten Commandments. You know, that scene where Charlton Heston holds out his staff and parts the Red Sea. I had a bunch of people standing by. I put up my hand and I brought in this boiling sea, and everybody was afraid. And I said, "Do not be afraid." And I held up my hand and I froze the sea. A little dramatic, but it gives you the idea that you're the master of your own environment because you've created this environment. It's all coming from you. The only difference from a basic dream is that you are aware that you're having a dream. Although I have noticed in lucid dreaming that I don't always have 100% of my normal conscious mind. there may be some crucial elements missing. Like, I may know I'm dreaming, but I may forget that I'm married. I mean, there's a lot of things. So you are conscious, but it's not always, at least in my experience, 100% normal consciousness. At any rate, though, it's an artificially created environment that you created. Therefore, you have all the power. The next level is remote viewing. And there's a lot of confusion about this. And I've made a video about this, just like I made a video about lucid dreaming. Remote viewing is where someone who is conscious, now they may be in a relaxed state, they may be sitting up in a chair with their eyes closed, they may be lying down on a couch with their eyes closed, but they are conscious. And what they're doing is they're sending a portion of their consciousness away to another place on the physical plane. They then see what is happening in that far off place on the physical plane, and then they bring that consciousness back, and then they can then relate to someone what they saw. If you're thinking, wow, that might have intelligence potential for the CIA and NSA and what have you, or the military, you'd be right. And there was experiments done about that in the 70s and 80s, and possibly afterwards, we just don't know, in the USA and also in the Soviet Union at the time. So that is remote viewing. And keep in mind that that person is conscious, and what they're seeing is on the physical plane. That's important. Next step. Now we've got astral projection. Now, astral projection is different from the ones that came before. Here you are leaving your physical body. Your consciousness is 100% the same type of conscious mind that you have when you're walking around here in the physical. The only difference is that your physical body has been left behind. Your astral body usually resembles very closely your physical body initially. You can see through it normally if you take that trouble. And I'm not going to go into the whole astral projection experience because that's what this whole channel is about. And there's a lot of videos about that. However, what is important to talk about here is that you are now on the astral plane, or I should say planes, because there's more than one. These planes exist outside of you. You do not control them. You did not create them. You do not control them. Now, the lowest level of the astral has bleed through from the physical plane. So some people who pass over can be confused, especially if they didn't have any afterlife beliefs as to what's happened to them, because there are many elements of the physical that have bled through. But you're not on the physical plane. You are just a hair above it, outside of it. So you have a limited, very limited ability to interact in the physical. And I've talked about that in the past. And you cannot merely mold things without effort like you can in a lucid dream. Now, can you make changes to astral environments? Yes, you can. But it requires almost the same amount of dedication and investment of energy that it does to change things here on the physical plane. If you want to build a house, you've got to do a lot of work to make it happen. If you want to do that on the astral, it doesn't take quite as much work, but it takes a lot of dedication and a lot of effort and a good amount of energy investing in building that astral house. But just like in the physical, you're building a house with your own effort. It doesn't mean you control this whole plane. It means you're merely interacting with a plane that is outside of you, the astral plane. The cousin of the astral projection is the NDE, or the near passing away experience. I don't say the middle letter because you can get in trouble for doing that. Now, this is very similar. It's, as I say, it's a cousin of astral projection, However, this is something that doesn't usually happen consciously. It doesn't happen on purpose. What happens is your physical body undergoes some serious amount of trauma. In some cases, the body is extremely damaged, and the astral body is ejected from it. And there are people who've been on the operating table and their heart has stopped for a period of time. And they find themselves floating above, looking down on the operating theater, wondering what the heck is going on. When Ernest Hemingway was young, the writer, he served in an ambulance corps during the Spanish Civil War, and there was some sort of a shell that landed nearby, and his body was thrown up in the air and fell hard against the ground. And for a period of time, he found himself outside of his body, wandering around, wondering what the heck had happened. And there was a situation there where I don't know that his heart had stopped, but his body underwent such tremendous trauma that for at least a short period of time, his astral body was forcibly ejected from his physical body. So, other than that, the NDE is very similar to an astral projection. You're also on the astral plane, and many of the same rules apply. It's just that it happens outside of your conscious will. It happens because of a series of very severe circumstances. So, I hope, at least for the new people, that this basic explanation as to the differences between basic dreaming, lucid dreaming, remote viewing, astral projection, and NDEs helps to clear up some of the confusion. Keep in mind that many of these topics have their own video on this channel, and so as you get the time, you can certainly find out more about these particular topics and how to induce these states. I'm not going to do that now because that's not the purpose. The purpose here is to clear up some confusion. Okay, now let's get to my encounter with the Undersea UFO. Over the years, like many people who are interested in the alien UFO topic, I've heard of some stories of people encountering alien craft, flying saucers, if you will, coming out of various bodies of water, from large lakes to oceanic environments, where people in boats, people on oil platforms suddenly encounter these enormous craft, either traveling quickly underwater or emerging from the water. And the idea being that perhaps if these beings are indeed here, that one of the places that they choose to hide here on Earth is deep underwater. And it wouldn't be surprising if that was true, because the old saying is that we've explored about 5% of the floor of our oceans. We know more about the surface of the moon than we know about the floor of our oceans, especially the very deep parts of our oceans. I mean, we have a good idea of what's going on in the continental shelves, where you're dealing with usually no more than a few hundred feet of water or so. I'm sure we've got scuba divers, we got all kinds of people, but when you're getting down to those crushing depths in our oceans, very few people have ever gone down very deep and actually been able to come back and report what they've seen. So if you were an alien society and you wanted to have a base here for some period of time, under a large body of water might be an ideal place, because you'd be pretty darn safe from interruption, especially if you went very deep. So now I didn't go to bed necessarily with that idea gelled in my mind. I had told my wife, we had had a discussion Thursday night, and I said, you know what? I haven't really had a good astral projection in a while. I was very busy at work, very preoccupied. I've had some astral projections where I just flew around. I always enjoy doing that. Nothing fancy. But I said I was thinking maybe I'll go, try and go underneath the ocean. That's I've done that a few times. It's one of my fears. It's a relatively minor one, but it's not like the claustrophobia of going into the earth. But I figured, well, let's go into the sea and see what's going to happen. And then my wife brought up, well, why don't you try to check out some aliens? That was her idea. And so I think when I astral projected then, after going to bed Thursday night, I kind of put those two things together. And I was flying high above the earth when I put together my concentration and said, I want to project to an alien craft that is underneath the ocean. And I held that very tightly in my mind, and instantly I took off faster than a speeding bullet. And I found myself heading towards the Gulf. Now, keep in mind, I had only a couple of seconds to try to figure out exactly where I was crashing into the water, because it happened so fast that I had very little time. When I got back to my body, I opened up the maps on my computer, and I was able to estimate that I believe I went into the Gulf roughly south of New Orleans in Louisiana, and it was somewhere around 300 miles south of New Orleans, or about 500 kilometers south of New Orleans, where I went into the ocean. It only took me a fraction of a second to get to the bottom, which was inky black. There was absolutely no sun in appearance. And when I did my research, as I said, when I woke up the next morning, I saw that there are soundings in that area of the Gulf of Mexico where you've got over 13,000 feet in depth, or around 4,000 meters. So you are talking extremely, extremely deep. For comparison's sake, I decided to look up what the crush depth was for the U.S. Seawolf submarines, which are some of the pride of the U.S. Navy. And that information, the accurate information, is secret. But people estimate that the crush depth for the Seawolf submarine is somewhere around 3,000 feet, or about 900 meters. So you've got this huge metal submarine that, if you went below 3,000 feet or 900 meters, would crush like a walnut shell. And here I am, possibly as deep as 13,000 feet or 4,000 meters. So I was very deep. But I remember thinking to myself, boy, it's a good thing that I'm not in the physical right now, because I'd be alive for about 1/60th of a second before I was crushed down to nothing. However, obviously I didn't dwell on that, because that would have brought me back to my physical body. So what did I do? Well, I was confronted by this blackness. I couldn't see anything. But slowly, as I was looking around, I noticed a blue glow that was coming from not that far away. So I just projected through the ocean, which is always very interesting because you're so used to having to swim. But I literally just, in a sitting position, just projected to the blue glow. And there I found, hovering above, a very large metal saucer. This metal saucer was emitting and was the source of this unearthly blue light that was completely around it. I didn't see any windows. It was just this metal cylinder. I floated up a bit to try to see the whole thing because it was enormous. Now, my estimate is a rough one, and it's based on me trying to imagine how many of my bodies would go across this thing. I don't know. It was enormous. I would say, just as a real guess, that it probably was as much as 1,000 feet across, or somewhere around 300 meters. So we're talking about a huge, huge craft. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, this thing, how does it maintain its structural integrity? If, I knew we were deep. At that point in time, I didn't know how deep, but I figured it was pretty deep down there, but it, there didn't even seem to be a dent anywhere. So I decided, well, let's go into it and let's see what's going on inside. So I made, I started melding into the craft, but it was very strange. I couldn't go through. And that's not something I'm used to. I'm used to being able to go through anything fairly easily. But it was almost like there was some force holding me back. So I decided that perhaps I needed more of a running start, if you will. And I gathered energy from the surrounding ocean as best I could. And as I did that, I felt my vibrations rise, and then I projected into the craft. And after that initial resistance was overcome, I got inside. Once inside there, I was, confronted by the inside of this very large craft. There, I immediately noticed there were some aliens milling about, but they weren't the familiar grays that I was used to. They were perhaps the types that people call the Nordics or the tall white aliens. And I also noticed they walked right by me without seeing my astral body, unlike the gray aliens, which always noticed me. So these could not see me. Their appearance was quite striking. The males were a good deal taller than me. I'm around 5'11". I would say they were probably upwards of 7 to 8 feet. They had what I thought their hair looked to me to be white, not blonde. And I didn't see anyone with blue eyes. They had basically black eyes, which I also found striking. But other than that, they were extremely pale, and I could see where people would call them the Nordics or whatever. But then I also remember thinking, oh, by the way, I also saw the female. There were some females there too. They were wearing some sort of a white, close-fitting garment. I didn't see any separation of pants or shirt, or indeed how it even got on. But the females, I could tell, they had longer hair. It was also white, same black eyes, but they seemed shorter. They seemed to be more like 6 to 7 feet. But then I remember thinking to myself, well, if they really wanted to disguise themselves, I bet you all the females would have to do is get a bottle of hair dye, dye their hair blonde, and wear some contact lenses and make their eyes look blue. I mean, that's what we low-tech humans would do. I would imagine they could at least do that, or else come up with something a little bit more high-tech. So I was thinking to myself that perhaps I saw them the way they really are and not the way they appear to us. I don't know. I know if I looked like that, I probably would want to change my appearance so I would look a little bit more human. I started exploring around the craft. I saw a variety of rooms with scientific machinery in there. Unfortunately, I have no frame of reference. I have no clue what they were doing. Um, One main room that I saw as I walked around, I was struck, very surprised because I saw a human there. He was dressed in uh, what looked to me like an Air Force jumpsuit. And I scanned his mind and I got his name, which I will not share here because, obviously for obvious reasons. I saw that he had the rank insignia on his jumpsuit of a full bird colonel. So he is definitely high ranking. That's the rank for people who haven't been in the military. That's right below where you get promoted to general. I also was able to scan his mind a little bit. I don't usually like going for deep scans because that's an invasion of privacy. But his mind was very well structured, very disciplined. I doubt it could have gotten much anyway. I heard the word special operations, and I know he came from a Florida coastal Air Force base, something like McGill or McDill, something like that. And he was there as a liaison to these particular aliens. I heard them; they didn't communicate on a telepathic basis. They were speaking some language to him, and he replied in the same language. I was not familiar with the language. I'm not by no means a linguistic expert, but I've never even heard a language anything like what they were speaking, so I have no idea. I imagine he would have been trained in that language, and at one point they punched up a virtual reality of the Earth. The only difference was is I couldn't see through it. It looked like an actual Earth that was spinning slowly, and there was a variety of red dots on various places. And I guess I assumed that perhaps those are other locations of bases of theirs. They seem to be in every major body of water, certainly in all the oceans. I even saw one that was underneath, and that was located on Antarctica. So perhaps they have a location there somewhere as well. Their purpose for being there, I tried to read their minds, and it I couldn't do it. I For a minute I thought I was getting through, and then it was like a door closed, or it was like I was trying to explore a closet that with just my hands, with feeling unfamiliar things that I would have no way of even guessing what they were because I had no frame of reference. So I had no luck trying to figure out exactly why they were there or what they were doing. Obviously, though, they are there with the knowledge, if not full cooperation, of at least the U.S. Air Force, because why else would they have a human colonel there? I did notice he had a patch on, though. I didn't get close to this patch. It's not familiar to me. I saw a sword on this patch. And there were some other things too, which I remember seeing, although I didn't pay too much attention to it because there was so much else to look at. I saw roughly somewhere around 20 crew people, although they looked alike. And they were coming and going throughout the main room, going into off rooms that I couldn't see. And so I'm not sure. There could have been more. Maybe I wasn't seeing the same people. I don't know. I hate to sound Earth racist, saying that all the aliens looked alike, but they kind of did. So, there you are. I didn't have too much more time because I felt the return call coming. and I had so many more questions when it came. But so I was called back, and I awakened, and that's what I experienced. So it was quite fascinating to me, and hopefully someone else. I don't claim to be an expert in this process. When I was younger, in my teens, I was really into the whole UFO phenomena. I read all the books and stuff, but once I got done with my experiences with the Greys in the 80s, I kind of gave up paying attention to it. So I really haven't stayed up with the topic. So perhaps some other people listening to this are more experts, and maybe they can make sense of some of these things that I saw. I want to thank all the new people for coming aboard. I appreciate you very much, and I hope that basic review helps in case you've come aboard here in the middle of things and you just haven't had time to plow through all those hours and hours and hours of videos as of yet. So, once again, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this particular video, and I would like you to like the video if it was something you enjoyed. Share it with anyone else you think might be interested. Subscribe if you have not subscribed already. If you have subscribed, please hit that bell so you can get notified whenever I have a new video. And please leave your comments and or questions, and I'll do my best to react to them. Well, this has been Rick, and as always, I will see you on the astral plane.